All right. Well, today we have a very special guest, a friend of mine, Nick Del Bianco. I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Yeah, that was perfect.
This is episode 3 of the Partain Volleyball podcast, where I ask cool people questions about volleyball that I selfishly want to learn as a professional beach volleyball player, and that I think would be cool information for me when I'm coaching my online clients. So we're here to talk today mostly about arm swing and volleyball. Nick, I found him on Instagram. He makes some great content. What is this specific handle of your Instagram, Nick?
Armswing.academy.
Armswing.academy. Yeah. So they have awesome stuff. We talked a bit a few weeks ago, and his mindset and the mentors he's been around sound really legit. And he's got a great knowledge of anatomy, as well as how to communicate simply enough for athletes to actually do the things he's talking about. And basically he just gets you to hit hard, hit safely, and effortlessly, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot more that we didn't talk about. I know he has a lot of background with just kind of general health and rehab, and I think strength and conditioning stuff, like most of these arm swing guys do, but and jump stuff as well. But yeah, Nick, if you could just tell people a little about yourself and your background, it'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks, Miles. Thanks for having me on this. I've been following you from a distance for a while now, and I've loved the content that you've been posting, especially all the cool things that you post around the arm swing. I think you have a really cool way of looking at things. So I appreciate you having me here. So as Miles says, my name's Nick Del Bianco. You got the name right, Miles. That was perfect. Nice. I run the Armswing Academy. We work with volleyball players on exactly what Miles said, how to hit the ball harder and how to do so in a way that promotes health in the body. So our story kind of began, myself and another co-founder, Misha Harris, started this company back in 2018. We were seeing a lot of athletes. We were both movement coaches. So we saw a lot of athletes who were volleyball players who were injured with shoulder, low back, knees, ab strains, all those kind of common volleyball injuries that you see. We'd work with them in the weight room, helping them move better there, get stronger, more range of motion, all that good stuff. A lot of those athletes would go away. They wouldn't return with the same injuries. It was awesome. But a lot of the athletes also came back, whether it was a month, 6 months, or the next season. And they had similar stuff going on. So then we started to figure out, okay, what else is going on here? We started watching them on the court, and we started noticing this pretty typical archetype of the arm swing of athletes who were genuinely healthy versus athletes who were generally falling victim to more kind of injuries or shoulder pain or things like that. And then we started working on the mechanics themselves, integrating some throwing patterns, some swinging patterns, some different drills. And when we saw those mechanics improve, we also saw those athletes stay healthier for longer. So that was a really big light bulb for us. Like, okay, like this off-court stuff still matters. We need to do it, but we also might need to address some on-court stuff with the athlete. And the cool part, or the bonus cool part when we were starting to do this, was they were healthier, but also they ended up hitting the ball 5-10 miles per hour harder that same season. So we got to touch the health, got to touch performance, and it was just a fun process to start.
Cool. So it sounds like you said you started as a movement coach, and that kind of morphed into this niche with volleyball arm swing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And did you play volleyball? And I think you did, right? You played some indoor. And you're in Canada, just for the audience to know. You're in Edmonton, right?
Correct.
And did you play at like one of the Canadian kind of indoor powerhouses, or?
Yeah. I played
Trinity Western and a few others.
Yeah, I played at Trinity Western University. So I played there, when was it, 2010 to 2015. And then I played a little bit of youth and junior beach national team, and then some senior indoor national team, and a few years of professional volleyball overseas.
Oh, nice. Where'd you play in overseas?
I played in Germany, in France, in Switzerland, and then I was retired by this point, but India was having their first season, and it was like in the middle of the year. So they were looking for either people that were injured or people that were recently retired to come over and play in it. So I went over there, played like 3 or 4 weeks in India. That was my final one.
Did you play with Paul Lotman at all, or no? Against him, or
against Paul? Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm currently playing with him in 2 weeks in the AVP Miami Beach Volleyball League event. So yeah, that's Yeah, he would tell me about India. It sounded like a really special experience, like super unique and cool, and they treat you pretty well, I heard. So that's awesome. Well, that's cool. You have that playing experience. I think that's important. Just, I think the biomechanics of arm swings can be academically understood decently, but as far as like how it feels and then the strategic component overlaid on that, it's tough, I think, to get if you haven't done it before. And so what did you play? Were you outside?
Yep.
Middle, outside? Oh, nice.
Outside,
So you got a lot of swings. Yeah, we played Trinity Western at UCLA when I was a setter there. There's a really popular like YouTube video of us playing. Like I think it has like 1 million views, and we just got smacked. Like you guys destroyed us. I think it was your serves were like really hard and in every time, and then our serves were like really hard and out like half the time. And then you guys were also in system when we made our serves, and we just got smashed. But you guys, I mean, it was like very impressive. So it's a cool program they've built there. Yeah, I want to kind of just as an agenda for today, I think it'd be cool to go over like your spiel, maybe a medium to long elevator pitch on the arm swing and what's involved there. Would love to go over your physical versus technical dichotomy that we mentioned, that you talked to me about before, how you kind of view those two buckets of training, and maybe it'll morph into some things from there. I'd like to hear maybe some stuff on your kind of overall movement coach learnings, how you learned. I remember you had a mentor you mentioned that was really influential. And then, so kind of those, so arm swing, then the physical versus technical, then maybe your background, and then the selfish stuff for me. Like I have some personal questions on how to hit better that, like I really want to learn how to hit cross body better. And like, I don't know why, but it's never been, and I have some questions on like when to get layback to hit. My biggest thing is like, I feel like I understand the components decently, not perfectly, but then learning how to make them all hit different angles is huge, because I feel like most people are concerned with just a hard hit anywhere, but I need to hit like shots, like 50% hits, 100% hits from all different angles of the court, from different sets, different arm slots. And there's just like a lot there that I feel like I don't see on Instagram that I'd love to ask about. But yeah, if we could start with the arm swing stuff, that'd be great. And just hear a little bit about that.
Cool. Yeah. So the arm swing kind of background, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like how, yeah, the A to Z of an arm swing, maybe like a quick hook and intro, and then a little deeper on like each piece. And I might ask some follow-ups on like how you train it maybe.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So for us, there are kind of 3 big keys, and then we'll talk about a 4th additional one a little bit later on. But the 3 big keys for the arm swing for us, they all just let us use our body in a more integrated way, so that we are rotating and using less of our shoulder to hit the ball and more of our full body. So when we talk about those 3 keys, have that context of it is all around how do we use our body to rotate more to hit the ball. So our first key is rotation. Very simply, we want the body to rotate as we hit. We want to look a little bit more like all the other overhead sports, the ones who are trying to throw the ball hard or throw something far. They all use a good amount of rotation as they do so. So we want to mimic some of that more in volleyball. Now, we know volleyball is a very different sport, and we, I think, have the hardest job out of all overhead sports, because we have to do all that in the air.
Yeah, and the set is all over the place. You're in the air, and the thing you're hitting is also in the air.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have an extremely hard job. So there's many reasons why the arm swing is hard, and that's probably one of the hardest things, is we're in the air and we have to time and adjust and all these different things. So that being said, rotation's a key. Whether that is talking about like just opening up and turning as we hit, or hip shoulder separation. We look at it in a few different ways or a few different lenses, but that is number 1. Number 2 is our drawback position. So we teach athletes what we call a low drawback, which low for us.
You said your draw acquisition. What
drawback position.
Drawback position. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or how we load.
Yeah.
So when we load, we want athletes kind of like around shoulder height, slightly above, slightly below, like anywhere in that range, we're pretty happy with. The big reason for that is we see athletes when they jump up and their hand continues going up, they usually get into more of an extension pattern in their spine, or that like leaning back position. And then they end up being very linear or very shoulder dominant as they swing, versus what you just demonstrated there of like, you want the athletes drawing back, which usually gets them pulling somewhere around this area so that they can actually open up their chest, create some hip shoulder separation, and then use all that rotation as they come through.
Interesting. Okay. I've heard in the baseball world, they talk a lot about front foot strike. You know, when their leg comes up, like they like do when their leg comes like way up, their lead leg, and then it moves forward. And once it strikes the ground, they talk about that position of your body as being really important. And they'll talk about the load being like a little bit preference based, but once you hit front foot strike, it's supposed to be really specific. Yeah. And I think it's kind of like the point at which have you heard of that, the front foot strike idea? Okay. Yep. What do you think about that in volleyball? I've heard like in volleyball have that hand, like shoulder height, like you're saying, you can pull back farther, you get more rotation instead of just extension. But when does that hand come up? Like if you can see in the video, when does it like, because I've heard people say if you leave it down and then start rotating and then it comes up and down like quickly, it'll whip a little bit too hard and you might hit it harder, but your elbow is going to feel it. And then in baseball, they would say like, get it up. So once it starts coming through, it's not getting this feeling. But then I've seen some, like the Torque volleyball guy on Instagram, he'll say like, throw it down so it whips back even harder. And he's like the complete opposite of that kind of theory in baseball. And so I hear in baseball, they call it like arm timing or get your arm up early. And I think they mean the hand is like up at front foot strike. And I was just curious if you have any thoughts on that. Do you throw it down so it comes back? I mean, a lot of indoor guys, I don't know. What do you think about that as far as the drawback position?
Great question. So I would say that's all to do with kind of the sequencing or like the timing of it is the term that we would use. So we want the arm relatively low as we're loading so that it will promote more of an opening position. Now, not for everyone. People are different. Armswing are different. We're pretty conscious of that. But when we start rotating forwards, for us, it's pretty similar to baseball. Is when our chest starts rotating forwards, we want the hand coming up and then coming through from there.
You want it up before it starts rotating forwards or as it starts rotating forwards?
So I like this position where hand comes up as body starts going forwards.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing around the elbow, I know we've talked about an elbow before.
It's super rare in volleyball. I'm one of the few people I think who've ever heard it. So I think it's okay to like do the whip thing, but for me, it wasn't. Or at least whatever I did, it wasn't. I got hurt.
Totally. So I would say I see so few elbows, maybe like 5 in my whole time working on the arm swing. 5 on the hitting side. I've seen elbows on their non-hitting side, different thing. But on the hitting side,
for some scope for just the audience, how many people have you kind of seen before? Like when you say 5 out of
thousands,
like 10,000, 2,000? I don't know.
Say like towards 10.
Towards 10. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah. We run a lot of clinics. We run a lot of consulting. We do a lot of we see a lot of athletes, and it's just such a rare issue that I don't see it being part of the arm swing really. Of like if they draw back and they start rotating, the hand comes up. Like I think that's a pretty good sequence to allow that leg to happen or that layback to happen in baseball. So they would kind of refer to it as.
Yeah.
So I like that sequencing. And then to go with that, it kind of gets into our third key anyways, which is the looseness, which allows us to actually have the hand go backwards as we're rotating forwards. So our big 3 keys are rotation, low drawback, and looseness. All those things were used just to promote more of a rotational based arm swing pattern that allows us to hit the ball more using our body, less just using our shoulder.
Got it. You said movement. What's the 3 things again? Movement, rotation, and...
So we got rotation, low drawback position, and then looseness of the arm.
Rotation, low drawback, and looseness. Got it. And that's just the drawback, right? You already jumped. Where your arms go straight up and then down, or do they start loading once it hits this like plane, it gets back? Or how do you talk about the kind of upswing after the backswing?
Yeah. And again, I'll come back to this, like there's lots of different arm swings out there. There's lots of different successful, healthy, hard swings out there. What we would generally teach for most people is when they're going up, as soon as it hits that plane, we would kind of go under it. I like to say there's like a piece of fine glass at your shoulder height. Don't smash the glass, like get under it.
And like raise it. Okay. Yeah. Nice. And then what happens? So you load it up, you got a lot of rotation. Is that primarily what you're thinking, is that hip, shoulder, trunk rotation? And then and then what about the
half of it?
Got it. Yeah. Does the non-dominant arm like swing around to help, or does it stay more like straight? How do you guys talk about that?
Yeah, we see a lot there. What we would kind of say with the non-dominant arm is we talk about it when it's an issue. So for a lot of athletes, it can be an issue where when they jump up, instead of going like in front of them, it ends up going off to their not hitting side. And it's really hard to open up when your hand's pulling you that way. So it's going to pull you through rotation. So you're not going to be able to really draw back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in that case, we would address it, and we would just kind of like read different cues and different things that we work on. But like essentially, if they're reaching somewhere within like midline of their body, that's probably a pretty good position for most. Now, you could reach more and use that to pull you more. I know the glove hand in baseball, they talk a lot about using that arm and that hand to create more of that separation. Whatever works for the athlete.
I see. And do you guys speak of like scap loading, meaning when you load back? Like I've heard the scaps of like Shohei Ohtani, for example, like they can touch each other. Whereas if I try and do it right now, like they're like 4 or 5 inches apart, but his like go all the way back. And like when you're loading, and I've seen baseball pitchers, like when they get into this position, they're like that. Like, are you trying to do some of that in the volleyball arm swing, or is it just kind of more of a natural stopping point? Or are you really trying to like stretch it out? And I mean, it's amazing how much scap loading they have. Like they're like the amount of chest like stretching or whatever it's called is like just a lot.
Yeah, I think there's opportunity there. I think I'm usually hesitant, especially for most athletes, let's say, initially to talk about that even. Because what I see as a common volleyball pattern is athletes jump up and they try to like draw back by scap loading, but they don't actually rotate their body. So their hand gets behind them because they are retracting their scap, but they're not actually turning their rib cage and their spine. So I see that as more of a early on issue for a lot of athletes, where like they get their arm back by using a shoulder blade, not by using rotation. So we often will just go like, let's teach rotation, and then maybe down the line, if they're actually opening up in the air, then we can maybe look at, okay, how loose can we be? Can we get that arm back? Can we find different positions there? But
interesting,
maybe a later stage thing.
That sounds very smart. Okay, well, great. I think I kind of understand some of the ideas. I'm sure you have a lot of cues for like different ways people present as like how to fix them, like with different cues. But I guess let's say they just have a great drawback position. What are you looking for after that? How do you unload or let go of the bow and arrow?
Yeah, good call. So everything we talked about still applies. So like we just talked about the loading, really like the rotation, the looseness, but like that rotation and looseness I want to see in the follow through as well. So when we hit the ball, if we're going for velocity, if we're hitting a jump spin serve or like a high ball out of system attack, we need to score with more velocity. I want them to keep rotating so that they actually end up turning the other way with their chest, maybe with their hips, maybe with their feet, but definitely with their chest. As a starting point.
If I'm on the right side as a lefty and I'm hitting here, you'd want me to end up facing like my antenna on the right side? Maybe. Where
are you hitting? You're hitting cross
on the right side. From the right side, I'm hitting deep angle. It's kind of straight ahead of me on my approach line. Would I hit it and then face my antenna, or down the line maybe?
So this is where I think we talked about early on, is like volleyball is unique. Volleyball is very different, and this is where I think our background in the sport can help us a little bit with this. Is like I'll say I would probably get a lot of athletes to experiment with that. Can you hit all different shots and rotate through? Usually that will help us hit harder. Now, not always. A lot of athletes can hit like sharp cross, let's say, and hit it really hard and not rotate through. We just know that that might be a little bit higher load on the shoulder itself. So there's opportunity to experiment with it, see what it's like. But I'd say like in lots of situations or situations that might make more sense for the athlete, maybe it's lefty hitting down the line as hard as they can, probably rotate through could help. If it's a jump spin serve from the end line or a back row tack and indoor, when you have a little bit more space away from the net so that the net's not a factor in how much you rotate through. That's probably another situation that would be a little bit easier.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And then the other piece, so that was the rotation piece, but now the looseness, we just want the hand to follow through. We don't want it to stop. When we stop the hand, we see a lot of, it's kind of like we've slow mode athletes like swinging on the ground, and if they stop their hand usually, and then we teach them how to like rotate through and let their hand go. When they stop their hand, you'll see in slow mo like these like ripples go through their skin, through their shirt, and then it kind of stops. And
yeah, the energy gets like redirected is just backwards and stored in the shoulder, and it like it'll slowly wear it away.
And then the next one, they rotate through, they let their hand go, and all of a sudden that same energy just like ripples, and then the shirt ripples down the rest of their body. And
so it went back up and through it and then down.
Yeah, when they learn how to rotate and not stop their hand.
So they'll hit it and keep going, and the vibration from contacting the ball won't stop in the shoulder.
Yeah. And
I thought just the fact that it went backwards was bad, but you're saying it's got to go backwards all the way through.
Yeah, we want to go all the way through the systems. We want to distribute force through more big muscles and get it away from just the small muscles.
That's cool. How do you measure that ripple thing? Like,
no, not a great measurement. No, this is just like iPhone slow motion.
That's pretty good. iPhones are high res.
They're fine. This is more like an
can you see the skin? I'm sure you could see the shirt, like, but can you actually see it like?
So it's not like it's not like waves of the ocean going, but like you see like how the arm goes and then how it goes into the shirt.
That's cool. Wow.
But it's so like there's
you can definitely feel it. Like when you hit, you're like, or if you hit it smooth and clean and you're like, you felt it like nowhere. It was like the sweet spot.
Sweet spot's a good way of putting that. So that looseness to help us get back here in acceleration, but also to help us follow through. Now, there's a lot of like, hey, follow through the same side as your swings, follow through across the body. We teach as a fundamental to follow through across the body to kind of also assist us to rotate more.
I see.
But our main thing, like I'm okay if you follow through the same side of the body. I just want the hand just not to stop on its own. We see a lot of jump spin servers hit a off shoulder jump spin serve, and their arm will just go, and then it'll stop, and then they're in their play. Like, just don't stop it.
I see. Okay, I mean I'm kind of following with that loose arm. How do you guys talk about, like in baseball they call it the arm slot, where you have like this 12 at the top down, like it's like a circle in front of you. Kind of like looking ahead at a clock. At the top is 12 o'clock. At the bottom is 6. On the, it's 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 again. If you're right-handed, arm slot wise, are you looking at like, I mean, volleyball, you probably want to be at like a 12 o'clock, high. But do you ever see some people hitting better at like a 1 or 2 o'clock, like a little harder? I also have seen like the tilt of the shoulder, like getting a kind of straight-ish line or like close to 1 is nice as opposed to like this, And so how do you talk about the shape of your body on contact?
Yeah, a lot of good questions, and a lot of things that we're continuing to learn more about volleyball here too. Is I had an opportunity recently to go and hang out in the USA men's indoor national team gym
in Anaheim.
And
cool.
I got to get some clips and use some software that we're developing, and it was really interesting because like everyone in volleyball is like, okay, we need to hit at our highest point, so we need to extend. And like I like the stacking position. Now we can talk about this lean really quickly. I like stacking if we're like way over here, if our body's bent like this, there's probably a little bit of stuff going on physically that we can clean that up a little bit, but like some leaning that way. And then what we saw, I filmed a lot of jump spin serves, and we looked at like elbow angle, and the elbow angle was often like 120 to 135 ish.
Is this 180? And then you
Yeah,
come,
this would be 180. So like they're kind of more like here probably.
are you bending your arm like on purpose, or is it straight? Or
I'm bending.
so it's a little bent. Oh, so
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is 180, and then this is
Yeah, so like 180 would be straight wherever it is. But then
so it's the elbow angle. Yeah,
yeah,
the upper forearm and forearm
yeah.
angle.
So I was pretty curious. I knew there was gonna be some bend. It makes sense that we're gonna produce a little bit more velocity, or it's gonna be a little bit stronger, but like I didn't expect that much. So I could see it being different when athletes are maybe attacking the front row, and how vertical we get, or how we can score with verticality might be more advantageous. So we might strain out the arm a little bit more, but from the end line, we need a lot of velocity. Angle matters, but velocity matters more. So when they're producing these really high numbers of velocity, they had kind of bent elbows, and we've seen this across colleges and everything else. Or is this cool to see?
And do they hit it and then straighten, or it's bent?
It all straightens. It all straightens
after contact.
Yep. But this is on contact.
Was like Matt Anderson like a little bent, because he's got like one of the most beautiful arm swings, I think.
Yeah, he has one of the coolest arm swings.
Was his kind of bent, or
pretty much everyone was
bent?
That eye film was in that position.
And then are they like this, or was it more off to the side? So a little tilt and then a little to the side.
Yeah, a little tilt, a little bit to the side, but like still reaching. Like they're still getting it up here. And this is a thing a lot of young athletes struggle with, is like high pointing the ball. And so a lot of athletes like are taught draw back high, and then so you can contact the ball high. And then there's just not a lot of motion there. So they're get a little bit more consistent with it early on. We just know the ceiling for velocity and for health is a little bit limited with that draw back high, contact high kind of idea. So yeah, a lot of these athletes turning, leaning, slightly bent elbow, but still reaching above them. So I think there's different, and then we talk about like slots a little bit more around like 12 o'clock and so on. I think volleyball is really cool because you kind of need access to so many different slots, whether you're hitting a jump spin serve, a front row, left side, right side, middle, fast set, slow set that gets pushed too far, set that comes inside, you want to hit a different shot. Like you're going to hit the ball from all over the place. So your shoulder just needs to be super resilient and strong so that you can get into these positions.
Wow, that's so interesting. Great. And then let's see. So we kind of went over the arm swing. Do you feel like there's any other super duper important key points that we didn't hit?
I think we talked about approach, because this is that fourth one, and then I think it's different for beach. I would love to talk about that too and get your insight there.
I just as far as just to kind of zoom out again. So we talked about arm swing, rotation being primary, hip shoulder separation, trunk rotation. You know, if your brain is in your arm, and you're not rotating, like get your brain out of your arm and think about rotating, because that's the most important place where the force begins to generate and after you jump. And then there's, bringing the arm back, keeping it loose, following through. Then we talked about a little bit of a bent arm on contact for a jump serve, and maybe even, if you're velocity focused in the front row, and a little bit of the non-dominant arm, what that's doing. I think now we're maybe going over approach. After that, we'll see how much time we have, but I know a lot of people ask me about like hand contact, especially beginners. They're like so concerned about hand contact, which like if you're super loose, like they're going to be like, well, isn't my hand supposed to be like doing something? Like, how is it going to be good hand contact if it's loose? But I'm sure there's some answers there. And then, I mean, I don't know if we'll have time to go over the physical versus technical, but just for the audience sake, like I remember, Nick, you were telling me that you look at physical capabilities of people, like what are your mobility abilities? How flexible are you, like under load in the air? And then how strong are you? And those are just kind of general physical capabilities. And then there's the technical side where it's what are you doing and choosing to do with your physical capabilities, and how can we improve those? And you use that two-pronged approach to kind of guide your training for athletes. And I'd also maybe want to talk about the business stuff, how your business works, and how you guys, you know, do that. And then maybe if there's time for the selfish questions, but let's go over the approach. Yeah. Like you were saying.
Okay. So just a quick recap. There's our 3 big keys: rotation, low drawback, and looseness. Now there's this 4th key that comes in as soon as we leave the ground, and that is our approach. So we work a lot on the approach and the mechanics of the approach so that we can jump high, we can set our feet up so that we are open, so that we just have to do less in the air, and we can set our body up in the air so that it's under control, and we have just good body control in the air, so we can do all these big cool things with the body as we jump and hit a ball. So the approach mechanics, and I think this is where, Miles, like we can talk a little bit more. Like I think indoor and beach, part of this will be a little bit different. I think it's easier for an indoor player to turn their front foot so that they are opening up towards their hitting side as they leave the ground, which will allow them to open up a bit more early on. Where in beach, like what would you say is the beach approach? The last
You're saying like your very last step in indoor, that I've heard people call it the block foot, or just that last foot. It's like sideways.
Yep.
Relative to your like approach direction. Yeah. I think in beach for sure you're seeing more of a straighter foot, maybe a little side. Like I've done sideways, but I've noticed over the span of a tournament, once I lose the pop and I'm like kind of tired, it doesn't really work anymore. And I'll jump really low, and I think it can work, but the problem is just the sand is shifting, and so you're gonna slide like whatever it is, 6 inches until you hit like bedrock, which is a hard surface, but you have to kind of hit it, and it takes a little longer. So the ground contact times are longer. There's less of a, so I think the step close, like those last 2 steps, they're going to be closer together than indoor. I think I've seen the step close. I've also heard it called the plant foot and then the block foot. When that plant foot comes down on indoor, like I've seen it relatively straight or close to straight. I think in beach it's a little more bent. And then the block foot, I've also seen straight in indoor, and I think in beach it's also a little more bent. So you're kind of landing with more bent legs, and then you have more ground contact time. So you're just sort of waiting to slide and hit bedrock and then jump. But I think, and you want to like, there's more of a 1-2 jump in indoor, and hopefully beach is like 1-2 jump. It's like the 1-2 is maybe a little closer together. So you'll have to like kind of hop into your step close, so you land with both feet close to together, as opposed to a more separated step. So that's how I see the difference between the step closes, and they're small, but they'll help if you're like transitioning from indoor to know that. A lot of times when people get their sand legs back, like those are the adaptations I think they make. But if you can just in your head like do them, then you can get your sand legs back like a lot quicker. So I don't know what you think about that. Those are my kind of judgments on it.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's what I see, and that's what I've learned in my past too. And I think the indoor approach allows us to set up the arm swing a little bit better, let's say. I think the beach approach, we can still set the arm swing well, but it might require a little more out of the upper body as we leave the ground. Versus if we take off, like what I want to see in indoor, where our front foot is turned towards our hitting side.
And the second to last foot is straight, and the sort of straight, and the other one comes around. It's not like both. Like one is
probably not both. Could be on different routes or things that we're running, maybe, but like mostly, let's say like front or the
like a 45.
Like somewhere front foot, other foot is somewhat straight, maybe a little bit turned too, depends on different things. But so I think that's something that we look for in the approach. If we see what is happening, like what you do in beach, where the feet are either close together or just both pointed straight, we definitely look at addressing that, because in indoor, because when we jump, it's really hard to jump, turn, and then hit. But in beach, you have to. Like that is part of.
You're at a disadvantage if you're not doing that indoor. Yeah, I've noted. Yeah, indoor is so rotational. Beach is more linear. I think it is just you can't. And then I think for shots, it might be a little easier to be kind of more linear. Not like a ton more, but I guess just less rotation is. Maybe it's not linear. It's just less rotation. Yeah.
We can say like less degrees of motion.
Yeah, for a shot, for sure, it's a much more compact motion. But when you're smacking it, like Netherlands, they're known for just hitting a lot. Poland hits really hard sometimes, or like a lot. Those two countries, like they got a lot of rotation. So
and there's a lot on the men's and women's side in beach that rotate a ton and hit the ball really hard. Often.
The women in beach are very linear. They're not hitting very hard or rotating a lot.
But this linear idea makes a lot of sense too around like the hand contact. So like beach, you have to have such good hand contact to like manipulate the ball, and you need to be super accurate with things. If we are asking the body to really rotate and open up, and we want the arm kind of lower to allow us to do more, there's more degree of motion for the hand to move. There's more space for the hand to move before it hits the ball. So you have to have a really good hand to do all that stuff and still be able to place the ball wherever you want. Now, the easier option is to condense that. So I'm learning golf right now. It's my summer project.
I really want to. I'm right behind you. I'm like 2 years probably behind you, but I need to.
That's fun. And I love being able to learn it again. Yeah. And so one of the things is like, I wasn't contacting the ball well. And so he's like, okay, like we're just gonna do this drill. And I just lifted the club up to like hip height and then swung through from there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm like contacting really, really nicely again. I'm finding the ball again. But I see that as the same thing with this arm swing. It's like when you just condense things, maybe you're more linear, it's easier to initially find your hand contact. It's easier to manipulate the ball with less degrees of motion, but you're not going to hit the ball. Your ceiling for how hard you can hit the ball isn't going to be very high. And potentially shoulder, low back, and those other things might be at higher risk of injury. Not 100%, but like they might be.
Yeah, when you try to hit really hard and you're not rotating a lot, you'll have to source the energy from your shoulder or like hiking and
just be super strong. Like we have a lot of athletes that are like they're late in their career. We don't work on their arm swing, and they're not the most efficient arm swings, but we just help them be super strong and give them like insurance policies on their body of like, okay, you get into these positions that we know aren't great or efficient, but let's just make you really strong there because we know that you're going to go there 2,000, 3,000 times this season.
Back to the well. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Everybody has their wells.
Yes.
Just like they dug deep in their brain for years, and it's hard to dig a new well sometimes, for sure.
Or just the timing. Like you're a professional athlete, like there's not much of an off season for a lot of athletes. Like I was just
you have to learn to like take those performance dips to learn something new, like in practice, but especially you need to learn how to do it when it counts. If you can't do it under pressure, it's not you're never gonna like actually choose to do it. You need to learn to like risk losing to try a new skill.
Which is tough.
A lot of people, it's really, if your family's depending on your salary and stuff like that, like it's tough. But the more you can do it under pressure, the more ingrained it'll get in your subconscious, and like you'll hopefully fall into that groove of actually like doing it without thinking at some point. But
totally. I think professional athletes have such a difficult task without an off season to make some of these changes, but they can still make the changes. Like you said, it just takes a risk, and the process works. It just takes a little bit of risk to get there. But when you get there, you're usually at a brand new spot. There's a cool story, Tiger Woods. We're on the golf right now. So Tiger Woods, I can't remember, he was into his career. He's super successful, winning lots, but he completely changed his drive because he knew that his drive wasn't going to allow him to continue to be at that level for long enough. And when he did that season, he was terrible. He was not winning. It was like, what's happening? Yeah. I might be misquoting this, but I'm pretty sure a good chunk of the season, like probably millions of dollars on the line with making this change. And he made it, ended up driving further, and ended up getting back to the top and winning and continuing on.
That's a great story.
It's possible. It's not the thing. It just takes a bit of risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then like hand contact wise, I mean, we talked about the foot on the approach being a little more in to help set up earlier rotation to have to do less in the air. I like that. Beach, you have to create it in the air. Got it. Makes sense. Maybe less degrees of rotation to favor more angles and more consistent hand contact. I guess now moving on to hand contact, like what do you guys think? If your hand is this limpy, like spaghetti noodle thing, like how do you ensure good hand contact? I feel like when you're hitting as hard as you can and you actually have a lot of rotation in your favor, great. Like it's gonna whip through, I think, nicely. But for the beginners who are like super blocky and like if they just make their hand like this and they don't have any velocity to begin with, I don't think it's going to be a good outcome. So how do you manage hand contact for a beginner who's got like very little rotation? They're like just like, because when you first start playing, like you're just trying to contact the ball, much less like do something like cool with it. You're just trying to like make contact and get it to go anywhere in the court. And so how do you like see that progression from beginner hand contact to, I assume like for an advanced player, you would say like wherever your arm's going is where your hand will also go and just let it be loose. I don't know, but yeah, how do you?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like the loose hand can create some crazy results on the hand contact initially. For a more experienced person, probably not. It's probably just going to be a positive effect and create better spin on the ball when we're a little bit looser versus, we always like in a clinic with young athletes, like to break it down to like, okay, like on a float serve, your hand is very stiff. What happens to the ball? It doesn't spin. Okay, so if we want to do the opposite of that, if we want lots of spin, let's just make it looser and then let's slap and get on the ball. I think spin can come from looseness. I think spin also just comes from like where we place our hand on the ball. So like if we're under it, if we're middle of it, maybe a little more float. If we're on top of it, maybe a little bit top spin. Like there's different things that you can do. How we train it, I think is, I like how we train it. It's not the fastest is what I would say, but it will make your hand a lot better than how I see it trained maybe outside of this. And we just train it through variability. So first we want to have decent mechanics for a beginner. Like let's have somewhat efficient patterns. Let's learn how to rotate and hit a ball. And then on top of that, now let's give you a little bit of variability. So when you'll see a lot of beginners when they're like hitting a ball back and forth, the partner, they have like a small toss and they'll hit and it'll be like very like condensed and linear.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be the same toss every single time. So versus advanced person, like they'll be like playing with a friend, they'll like toss it way out with different spin, different hand, and like do different things with the ball. Like they just have this like mastery kind of skill. So how do we bridge the beginner towards that mastery, I think quicker, is by giving them that variability. So first train the efficiency of the swing, because that will help the hand contact. If you can make a swing more repeatable, you'll find your hand more often. And then you train the brain of how to become a better predictor of where the ball is in space, that you can find your hand better. And you do that by giving more variability. So if very simple one is like hitting the ball back and forth with a partner, instead of just tossing with your left hand and hitting with your right, toss with your right, toss with your left, toss with two, toss high, low, toss left, toss right, toss with different spins. And you're just teaching your brain how to see the ball, put your hand on the ball, and then you have a result to focus on it too, of like, okay, I need to get 5 out of 10 of these balls so my partner can dig it or they can catch it or whatever it is. And then it's like, okay, you have you have this ball doing different things. You have that process. Did you accomplish it? Yes or no? And then it gives you your brain that instant feedback of, okay, maybe next time I have to do this differently.
Is the little things you do differently, is it ever like tensing up your hand?
Maybe.
Or is it more arm path related and how your hand got there? Or is it
maybe it's to do with like how you set up your feet? Because if you toss a little bit and then it go, maybe you're on the beach and it blows a little right. Okay, but you try to contact it still without moving your feet. Now maybe it's I need to move my feet next time so I can get that ball in a more ideal spot.
Yeah.
So it can be anything, but it's just giving, again, I want a somewhat efficient swing to begin with, and then I want to train the hand contact by giving the brain tons of different stimulus. I think that will allow people to find a much better hand contact faster, but the process is going to be super ugly to begin.
Yeah.
Like it's an ugly process to start but there's
I
the
love the ugly
acceleration
stuff when it has
is
a
gonna-
good like process on it. Yeah. Players need a lot of encouragement to like get through that. But yeah, it's awesome if they can get to it on their own. Like that's like, if I see a player like autonomously tossing all over the place, hitting with their left hand, their right hand, like doing all this stuff with spin, sit different, like on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, that kid's gonna be good. Like he might be short and unathletic, and that's gonna like limit him, but it won't be his brain that does it. Like he's gonna get as good, like he's gonna hit his genetic potential like quicker than most other people who need that encouragement.
Agreed. I think there's a fun game we like to incorporate some teams and programs that we are working on hand contact with, and it just comes to like basketball or every other sport that like volleyball isn't really like a hey, go to the park and just go play volleyball. Maybe go to the beach and do it, but like it's not super accessible in the way that like, hey, soccer, just go and shoot on the goal, or go play basketball.
Yeah.
Basketball, go shoot on the net. And all these other sports have so much more like play in them. So, and I think that develops a lot of cool skills. So we implement like a peg or horse, a game of peg or horse. So you call your swing. I'm going to toss with 2 hands with backspin, and I'm going to spin it to the left side of the court. Or I'm going to side spin it, I'm going to backspin it, I'm going to float it. And you just like call these different things, and the next person goes, and it's just like basketball.
It's fun.
Horse. It's fun, but then it teaches all the hand contact stuff that you're
and you do something that you know your teammate like is really bad at. Like, and you do it like every time.
Totally. You do it on the ground, you do it jumping and hitting a spin serve, whatever you want to do. Like there's so many options.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's a pretty good answer for hand contact. The physical versus technical thing, I mean, I'd want to go, I don't know. I think I'll just explain that real quick, and you correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, just for the audience, like Nick and I talked before, and he looks at an athlete roughly, or I mean, I think it's pretty comprehensive. In 2 buckets, you have these 2 ability or 2 ways to get better. One is you improve your physical qualities. Other is your technical qualities. And physical means how you squat, how you hinge, how you move, what your running gait is like, what your more general physical capabilities are, especially in the joint department too, with like how much can you rotate, because he wants you to rotate technically, but if your body can't physically do it, then step 1 is get the physical ability and then learn how to educate that ability. And so and then there's the technical side, which is, you know, and then again with the physical, your strength numbers, it's really, correct me if I'm wrong, it's pretty much like how far you can move in different directions, like mobility and flexibility wise, and then how powerfully you can do it, right? It's kind of those 2 things are physical. It's like range of motion and then like strength in that range.
Yeah, pretty much. Like we say quality and capacity.
Okay, quality and capacity.
How well do you move? Does your shoulder and scap move well together? When you rotate, do you just like retract your shoulder blades, or does your rib actually move and your spine actually move? So that's kind of quality stuff. Range of motion, quality stuff. Mobility, quality stuff. And then capacity is like how much strength do we have in certain positions? How much strength do we have through that movement that we're trying to do?
Okay, so the physical is then subdivided into quality and capacity, and then the technical side is like, all right, your body can rotate, but does it when you hit? How do you use your brain and rewire that neurological side to have the skill set? And that's kind of more drilling, that's more cues, that's more figuring out what type of athlete they are, how they learn, and then you kind of just attack those 2 areas strategically, probably usually physical first, if that's the choke point, and then you'll work on the technical from there. And I like that framework. It sounds healthy. It sounds the most efficient, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I don't know if there's any corrections you have to that, but I like that way of thinking it.
Yeah, I think you explained that super well. I think that approach allows us to work with tricky cases where they've had pain in the arm swing for lots of years, and maybe they've tried to improve their technique, but they haven't also addressed the physical side, or they've only addressed the physical side with the shoulder pain, but they never actually addressed the mechanics of it. So we get to kind of like see both realms and both worlds of the athlete, and then bridge them together. And yeah, it's fun. I like having the more of a comprehensive picture because it allows us to, I think, to work with a lot of people that work with lots of people, but also the trickier cases.
Cool. Okay. And I'd like to know, just kind of time check, like, I guess I'd want to understand how your business works, like how people can find you. Maybe do that at the end if it's quicker. But we could also make time now. And then, so yeah, the business side, where people can find you, how they could potentially work with you. And then also, like for me right now, my like frontier of like research and development as I'm like playing volleyball, I'm trying to figure out more and more how, like you said, all the variability with arm slots, like that you could hit the ball, you know, high, low, left or right, and front, behind, like all the 3 dimensions. And then there's different ways to like get your feet there, twist your feet, rotate. But the biggest thing is like, okay, once you find an arm slot you like, let's just say it's here. And then once your feet are there, like after that, how do you look at hitting different angles? Because like, and there's horizontal angles like left and right, and there's also vertical like up and down. Like, are you shooting it like up and over the block, or like hitting it super sharp, or is it like a sharp shot? Are you hitting high hands like really up but like hard? Like all that kind of stuff. Like I usually think like, where am I getting my layback is where it's gonna like lay forward towards. So I'll like point the layback. That's how I think of it. I'm like pointing the layback like towards where I'm hitting. And that's like, and then I think there's some, like you do the layback up here, or you can do it down here, and then it straightens. And I think there's some stuff not only with the shoulder joint doing this, but also the scap, like behind it, like doing different stuff that can create those different angles. So yeah, those, there's kind of like the angles and spin question, and then the business question. So I don't know where you want to take it, and how much time do you have?
I don't have,
because we're going.
I don't have a super long time, but we can definitely get through those.
Do you want to go like 10 more minutes and then we'll call it? Okay.
Yep. That works.
Sounds good.
Let's start with angles.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I have the most satisfying answer to this, but how I would approach, let's say an athlete wants to hit sharp, is I'd watch them hit sharp and see what they're doing with their body. I'd still know, like before that, have a physical assessment of like, does this shoulder move with freedom, or are they, so like you were talking about a crossbody swing, I think earlier. So
yeah,
like,
that's the one that I struggle with. I often will go like, I'll have a decent load maybe, and then my arm gets like really high, and I can hit wrist. I can hit wrist away like really well, even from when I was a kid. Okay. It's like super consistent. I do it under pressure. But then when I want to hit like across my body or even straight ahead of me, like for whatever reason, like all my mechanics go out the window, like my shoulder like hurts. I've pretty much just decided to like do a really short line shot, like fast over the net and dropping, or like a over line shot. But I pretty much stop like hitting hard, like, or if I do hit line hard, I like kick myself for doing it. I'm like, don't do that. Like, because for me, it's easy to read, it's inconsistent, it's easy to block. It's like all the bad things. So the shots are better in my case. But yeah, like how do you, especially for a person who's good at this, because some people like they can hit this, but they can't hit this way to save their life. Like it just goes, I don't know if you've seen those kinds of people, but that's like, I'm like one of them. And it's been like the bane of my volleyball existence, like not being able to hit this way, like cleanly. Or I'll do one or two and think I like solved the puzzle, and then the next day it's like bad again. And I'm like, I think there's like a physical like root quality that I like don't have access to that like other people who are good at it do, because I've like scoured the earth of like my body and like different arm slots and like all the arm slots, like different ways to load. And like, it's literally since I was like 16 years old, like I'm 24, like it's one of, if not the number one thing I come in to practice, like wanting to figure out. Like it's been a really long, like frustrating journey. There's been like giving up on it. Then there's been like times of really focusing on it. And right now I'm kind of like aware of where I'm at and like searching for a deeper physical like root solution. That's because I've tried all this stuff that's like surface level, and like it just doesn't really work. So I just fall back to the same like pattern. So
yeah, So I think let's go with that as like what we're looking at for this conversation here is like that crossbody swing, whether you're lefty or righty. First thing is like, okay, let's look at the swing. Let's look at how you do it. Maybe you do something very different in your body all of a sudden when you're doing a different shot. And then we might look at, okay, like how can we maybe bring that back to your root arm swing that you do really well off shoulder? And maybe that is a simple solution for some athletes of like, they're doing a different, they're hitting a different position on the court. So then they subconsciously do different things with their body.
I totally do. I'll tell you this, like when it works really well when I'm thinking of hitting like wrist away or thumb down, and I'm like tricking myself that I'm thinking there, and I actually like am hitting there. And then like once my arm clears this zone, if I twist it, it's great. But like I have to time it like so perfectly. It's like if you've ever played a video game where it's like there's a thing going this, you click the button like right when it's like in the green zone, like it's like I have to be like, it has to be a perfect set. I have to like be really aware of it, but then I have to be like unaware of it to trick myself. But then when I do it, it's like a really clean contact. It's deceptive. It's high over the net. But with all the variability with wind and stuff and beach, like I kind of stopped trying that just because it was so hard to. It was just like annoying. Like I want to be able to like decide to do it early. I want to be able to decide to do it late. I don't want to just be able to do it late. But anyway, that's where I was.
Yeah. So I think with you and with a lot of athletes, like maybe the different body positions that you get into. Okay, then if we change that back to more of what your root arm swing looks like, then can you access it more, or do we need to maybe change your approach angle? So some people, I've worked with one athlete who. They were just always front row and back row, hit a back row right side or opposite swing. And they would just always kind of do the same angle, front row or back row. And then they couldn't hit down the line very hard in the back row doing this outside in angle. And they were lefty. And so all we did was, okay, they want to hit that shot harder. So we just brought them in the court and then they had a better angle at it. And then they were able to execute it. So there's some approach stuff. There's some...
I've tried outside in, like way up in, inside. I've tried like to the point where like I'd hit down the line, like from the right side as a lefty, but like this way, like I would turn so much that it was like this way and then like hit this way, that way. So I just never had to have this feeling and it like kind of works. But ultimately, if this is my down the line swing, I don't have the other one. And if I have this one, then I don't have this one. And it just, but the approach angle, like that helps the most for me is like more like that back row. One. It's more straight. And then I can access it a little better. But the problem is when I have a set that's traveling left to right, if I'm not coming into the ball, I'm going straight. There's no like angle that's like meeting it. And I have a really hard time hitting like faster sets. But if it's up and down, it works. So
I think you can look at how your body's subconsciously moving the same or differently in the air. You can look at your approach. And then I think, as we talked about the physical before, you can look at your body. Like if you want to hit crossbody, that requires a lot of different things to happen in your body. One of them is shoulder joint adduction. So being able to actually get there, which means the front side of your shoulder, the tissue, the muscle, everything there is good at shortening, as the back side is good at lengthening. Now, if they aren't good at doing those things, then you might hit that a few times and it might get uncomfortable, or you might not be able to swing that way very hard. The other thing that might go with that is a lot of volleyball players and a lot of athletes in general only train with their shoulder blades back and down. So they do everything, push-ups, pull-ups, bench press, everything in this position. But when we're hitting that ball or a lot of swings, we're going to hit and the shoulder blade is going to protract. It's going to wrap around our rib cage if we want it to be able to swing that direction. Now I've seen a lot of athletes that their shoulder blade just never trained to do that, so it's really weak, so it doesn't go there often, or it feels bad when they do it. So there's that other.
That's my.
If you've tried a bunch of things, technically, that's when I would be like, okay, like let's check out the physical. I think
I have a physical quality that's like not there. Is that one of the main ones? Is the scap's ability to protract and
so that or the shoulder's ability to adduct.
So it's the glenohumeral, like the shoulder joint, or maybe the scap, like one of those two things going this way.
Often with what I've seen with people who have discomfort or pain or just an inability to swing cross body, if they have tried things technically, tried the approach, there very potentially is something going on in that area. Not always, but there's other things at play too. But that is
that like a lacrosse ball plus like isometric, like weighted, like pulling against it kind of things, or is it like the serratus, like scap push-ups, like these things, or like is it that kind of department of exercises? Is that how you would solve it physically, or
those may help? All of those I would say are like, they're all fine. They're just low stimulus. So if you want to adapt, you need higher stimulus. Now that might be high stimulus for some people, and that's maybe a great spot to try some stuff. But what I would say is I like to load the tissue in the back under length, which could be like a sideways row or a sideways press or a rotational row where you're not bending the arm, but you're keeping it straight. There's like, or you could be in like a bear position and then rotate your body towards that arm and away from it. So you're training those positions.
And you're training protraction under like load and length, right? Is that the idea? How would you, and you would do like say I was like, the cable machine is over here, cool, and I like kind of grab it like awkwardly, like this way. Would I go like that? And
so
like,
what you're doing now is getting there by protracting. So you could do both and either. I think both are. So if you want to work on adduction of the shoulder joint, then you're not going to allow, you're not going to allow the shoulder blade to move. So you can go here. Now, if you want to train the protraction, then you would go here.
How would you measure that? Or like, if I saw you in person, would you be able to like massage me or like feel it and like say, oh yes, your adduction or your protraction is limited? Or is that something more that only the athlete can feel?
No, yeah. So I'd look at how I'd tell you to move your shoulder in a bunch of different ways, and I'd tell you to do a bunch of different activities, different exercises. I'd watch how your shoulder blade moves and how your arm bone moves and how they move together or separately, and then come up with a bit of a picture. I'd like to gather information and data points. So I'm not gonna be like, okay, like just because of this one thing, I think this. It's like, okay, this thing plus this plus your arm swing all adds up, and then let's try this, experiment with it, and let's see if it works. And if it doesn't, then let's go to the next thing.
Okay. And then one other thing I was thinking is like, I don't know what you think about this theory, but like, if I get I've noticed if you're hitting wrist away, the arm often gets like up here into this kind of shape and then hits, and then they're more like tilty hitters where they like tilt down. And then the people who hit this way, it's more of like flat shoulders. You don't really see like this. It's more like this and like no look almost. The people who are good at it, like they seem to like turn away from it. And then I don't know, I was kind of thinking like another way to do it is scapular, like upward rotation. Like the wing is like, you know what I'm saying? Where it's back there and it's like not protracting or retracting, but it's like doing this thing, the upward rotation, like getting a lot of that going. And then I don't know if like, do you think it's a lot of upward rotation? That was another thing I thought I might be physically missing. But like, and then a lot of other things, I'll try it and then I'll like lean back a ton. I'm like, why am I not more like tall and just rotating? Because I'll do a bunch of extension and I'm like, because I'll be hitting like, I look normal when I hit this way. And then when I go like this, like the blocker knows I'm hitting line. And there's like, I might hit the net. I might hit it out. Like, I'm trying to hit it in, but that's like my issue. And that's why when I wait to the last second to turn it, like it's better. But when I like think about it early and like, I like lean a lot and I'm like not trying to, I don't know if you have any thoughts on all that, but
that's great. And I love your awareness over all this. I think it helps this a lot. So what I would say with your leaning back is your body's trying to find a solution to be able to do that. Now it's maybe not the most efficient solution, but your body's really good at finding solutions. So if you're hitting line and you're leaning back a lot, it's your body's way of probably clearing your body out of the way so that your shoulder can do a thing, which might be a few different things. It might tell us that, hey, maybe the shoulder is an issue, so your spine is trying to make up for it. That's one hypothesis that we can come up with from there. One of many. There's other things that might be happening there. Maybe the core and the ribs and everything else aren't, your cylinder, let's say, isn't strong in these positions, whatever. There's lots of options there.
I do think I'm a very pikey hitter. Like it looks like I'm twisting. Like right now I'm like kind of twisting, but I think my hips are like also going. I don't think I'm actually getting a ton of separation.
Right.
And I think it's like an illusion, like underneath my shirt. I think because when I was a kid, I would hit like this.
Yep.
And I've like slowly tried to change it, but I think it's still in there.
Yeah.
So, because I measured my trunk rotation with that baseball guy in Louisiana, and he was like, dang, you're like, yes, it was on a table or like standing, like it wasn't active, but he's like, dang, your trunk rotation like sucks. Like he was literally the bottom 1 percentile of. And so maybe it's like a lack of rotation. I also think it might be a lack of, like you were saying, actually, I didn't think of this. You brought it up today, but maybe the lack of adduction and protraction, maybe a lack of like upward scapular rotation. He said my scap was like stiff. I have some joint laxity in my actual shoulder joint, but the scap is like kind of locked, he said. So I don't know.
Yeah. So we want the shoulder and the scap to move with each other, and like with each other at different points. It's like scapular sequencing is a thing, or shoulder sequencing of like when your arm lifts up, when you get to a certain point, then your shoulder blade starts upwardly rotating and all this stuff happens. But we also don't want, I see a lot of athletes that they start lifting up and their shoulder upwardly rotates, or their scap upwardly rotates, and then they're not even moving their shoulder joint, they're just moving their scap. So we want both. Both are good things, and we want to have just like clean movement, clean, efficient movement, I think, in the shoulder because of what we do with our body. So coming back to the idea around like the cross body swing, I think your body is figuring out some things to be able to get there. It might not be the most efficient, but it's a solution.
It is.
And there's probably some stuff to explore physically from the sounds of it, whether that's your spine, your rib cage, your shoulder, your scap, different positions. That might help you clean up that movement so that you can access this in a better way. And I think you said earlier around like if you're hitting cross or off shoulder and like sharp cross, let's say a lot of people kind of get their body out of the way, versus if you swing cross body, then you're almost counter rotating. And I've heard or I've seen a lot around that around like, hey, your body is actually like blocking you from going too far and pulling the ball out the line for a lot of people. So like you're using that body to kind of like stop the ball from going too far away from you.
Right.
Versus with the cross court shot, you're almost getting your body out of the way so that you can get into that spot.
Yeah, I've noticed like, it's counter, like it's like opposite, but I've always wondered like with this one, like I thought you're supposed to rotate through it. So like if you're like reversing that, like are you using any hip shoulder separation? Like are you like initially using it and then you undo it? Like
it's a really cool skill. And there's this video of Yuji Nishida hitting a D ball, the Japanese opposite lefty. And
he has more of that straight approach angle on the D.
Straight approach on a D. He gets tons of hip shoulder separation, and then he swings,
and then he goes back,
rotating, goes back, and like recoils backwards, and then lands as he took off. It's like, that's an amazing swing, amazing skill. That's probably not his hardest swing because he's not using his body through the ball, but it's a really effective swing. It produces a lot of velocity still.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, I've also seen this way the dominant leg will kick up. And then this way, the non-dominant leg will like swing forward. Have you noticed that with arm swings too? Like I don't know. That's anyway. We're getting over. Let's move to the other stuff. That's helpful. There's other stuff like the forearm, like pronating or supinating. Like, yes, you want to hit it this way, but I've heard pronating is like good as a universal thing. And then there's also like then there's like finding solutions within your current physical capabilities, like where I'm at.
Yes.
Like if I don't have the shoulder stuff, like what am I supposed to do in the meantime? And that's like another thing I've been thinking about a lot, but for another time, maybe we can
I
just
think
hear
really
about,
quickly,
yeah.
if you're hitting down, if your crossbody swing requires you to lean back, I would just make sure that you have access to extension patterns in your body and your hips and your spine, and then that you are very strong in that, because that is that lean back position is where we see a lot of low back stuff and a lot of ab strains, because we're eccentrically loading the abs in a really long position, and when a muscle's at its longest point, it's more vulnerable. Not that we can't go there, not that we can't be powerful there, but it is higher risk. So I just want to make you really strong there.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. And then how can people find you? How do they work with you? I don't know if you're actually offering to like individual people or if it's more enterprise team club stuff, but yeah, how do they find you? What are your socials? What's your business?
Yeah. So our business is called Armswing Academy. We are armswing.academy on Instagram. We work with individuals in person and virtually. So we have a new virtual platform coming out in the next week. Actually, here we've had one for the last 2 years, but we're switching it over now. So we have this new exciting virtual platform where athletes can come in for free, get access to some free content and everything else, or they can upgrade to different things. One of them being kind of like one-on-one coaching, where we analyze video, we give them feedback, we coach them, we tell them what they're working on this month. There's workout programs around volleyball or the arm swing. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So that's kind of one big thing, is like the one-on-one, in-person or virtual. We do a lot of work with teams and clubs. So we go and we partner up with the clubs. We work with the athletes in like 2-hour clinics. And then we also work with the coaches in like a 90-minute workshop, so that we can set up the club to be able to continue this development long after we're gone. And then we also do a lot of consulting work. So we work with a lot of different high-level programs, ancillary programs, Canadian college and universities up here. And we come in and we implement and integrate within their current structures. When we come in, it's like we're just trying to support. So there's always a strength coach, there's always a therapist, there's always a head coach, assistant coach, all these things. It's like we come in as arm swing specialists and figure out how all these things can work better together to support a healthier and higher velocity arm swing. So we do the one-on-one stuff, we do club and clinic stuff, and then we do consulting.
Wow, that's like a dream job for me. I don't like traveling, but I will. And then I love like just the content of what you guys are doing. And once you do travel and get there, like that's awesome. So
thank you, Miles.
Great. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, Nick. This is super, super fun, productive for me. I hope people can get some benefit out of it for those people at the very top of the funnel of our marketing platforms. I don't know if this will get like millions or thousands, tens of thousands of views, but I think for those people who are really interested, this would be super valuable. Like when I was coming up as a junior, even now, like I would definitely think this would be well worth my time. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Miles.
All right.